Hey guys, how you all going? Today I want to bring you a kale kraut recipe. Now this morning I've been out in the garden picking the kale. It's nice and fresh. I got just an itty bitty load of kale that we're going to turn into kale kraut. I think I will put a bit of garlic and maybe some lemon thyme and some lemon balm in it just to get that lemony flavor through it, because that's a flavor that I like, but obviously you could put whatever flavors you want in it. So I'm going to go and wash this and de-stem it, and then I will come back and we will start the recipe and I'll show you exactly how it's done and how easy it is to do your own ferments at home. Okay, so I have washed all the kale and I've taken all the stalks, taken them off the vein in the middle. So I just pulled it all off and have it all here ready to process. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to take it out and I'm going to cut it up as finely or as thickly as you wish to have it when you're eating it after it's been fermented. I quite like mine fairly fine, so it's more like a I want to say fine like a coleslaw. That's how we like to cut it. So I'm just going to now just grab a handful of leaves at a time and just finely slice it all. Now, if there's any stalks that are left in the kale, they are the smaller veins, so don't really stress about it. It's by the time it ferments, it's not going to be that hard and chewy to eat. So I wouldn't be getting too worried about getting too particular about getting all the center vein out, because once it ferments, it breaks it down and it makes it way easier to eat. Now that I've chopped all the kale nice and fine, I mean, there are some bigger bits and then there's some smaller bits, but it's all fairly fine. I am going to add, now this is just from the flavor that I like and that my family like and brings it out. You could add whatever flavors you want. So if you had oregano, you could put oregano in it. You could even just leave it plain and not put anything in it. But I'm going to put fresh out of the garden, I've picked some lemon balm and some lemon thyme. So I'm going to put that in there because we kind of like that citrusy flavor that comes out into it. I'll just chop up this lemon balm, and it's also good for like the medicinal purposes of lemon thyme and lemon balm as well. So by fermenting your vegetables, you are going to get more vitamins and minerals out of it. Yeah, I mean the more vitamins and minerals that you can get out of your food, the better it is. It preserves your harvest. So I'm going to put this once I've jarred it up. I'm going to put it on the table to ferment for about a week. You could just leave it at room temperature until you want to use it. I tend to ferment it for about a week, maybe 2 weeks, depending on the temperature, and then I'll put it in the fridge, and we tend to go through it quite quickly. So yeah, so it's double effect of getting extra benefits with the nutrients that you get out of it, because the fermentation brings out those nutrients, and but also it preserves my crop. Like there's no way that we would eat this amount of kale while it's fresh. There's just no way that Matt and I would be able to do that. So by fermenting it prolongs the shelf life, and we can eat it for the next few months, and it's still very tasty. Now I've just peeled a ginormous garlic clove, which I'm going to put in here as well because, let's face it, garlic in everything is delicious. I'm just going to put it in this little, I call it a lawnmower. I'm actually not too sure what it's actually called. I quite like the term lawnmower. And it's just got a blade inside, and I just pull the string in it and it chops it. Makes life way easier for me than sitting with the knife and chopping. You just got to pull it a few times and it happens. And so that garlic is then minced. Now you can sit and chop, or you can put it through a garlic mincer, or and to whatever. If you like bigger chunks of garlic, don't chop it so fine. Leave the bigger chunks in there. I like to use the smaller bits of garlic, so it's more crushed, and it goes through the ferment some more. Now don't get stressed out about fermenting your foods. Enjoy doing it. Add flavors that you think would go nicely together. There's no hard and fast rule, just as long as you use enough salt in your mixture so that the bad bacteria can't grow and only the good stuff can. So coming to that, talking of salt, I play this by ear. I tend to put in, you're looking to get around about a 2% ratio of salt to your vegetables. I like to do it by the taste test. So in this very ginormous bowl that I have here, I'm going to start off with just a tablespoon, because the kale is quite fluffy, and you've got to admit it is quite light. So I'll start off with a tablespoon, and then we're going to just mix that through and give it a good squeeze and get the thyme and the garlic and all of that mixed through. Now what the salt is going to do is it's going to draw out the moisture from your kale leaves, and you're going to end up with this really nice brine, which is what you need when you jar up. You're going to need that brine to make sure that it covers all your veggies at the end of jarring, so that it can ferment, and so that none of the leaves are showing and will grow any mold. So the brine is obviously a nice salty solution that is made from the salt and the juice of these leaves. So as I'm gently massaging and tossing around, these leaves will become smaller and they'll appear to be less in the bowl, and that's exactly what you want. I'm not too sure if the camera's picking this up very well, but the leaves are starting to have a really nice sort of a glossy look to them, a watery look. That means the amount of salt that I've put in is a good amount at the moment. I'll wait till I've mixed it in, and I'm getting that thyme and that lemon balm, and that garlic is getting minced and coated on all parts of the kale, which will make for a really nice flavour in the long run. But like I said, no hard and fast rules. So whatever flavours you'd like. If you like things really garlicky, put 2 great big cloves of garlic in. If you want things hot, put chili in it. If you like that spiciness to it, use some chili. I thought about putting chili in this, but I decided that this batch I wasn't going to. We'll just make it that zesty, lemony flavour and lemon and garlic flavour. Maybe the next batch I make, I'll put chili in it. Now just have a little taste. Now that I've given it a really good mix, I'm going to have a little taste and see how salty the leaves are. You're looking for something that isn't too salty to consume, but not salty enough that you can't taste the salt. I actually think that's a good amount of salt for this batch. I'm just going to massage it and mix it through some more. And then I might actually let it sit for a bit and let the salt draw out the moisture out of the leaves, just so that we can get a really nice brine happening. But we'll also see that brine, that moisture coming out of the leaves when we start packing it into the jars. Now I've given that a really good mix around, and I'm actually just going to let it sit for about 15 minutes and let the salt bring out the moisture out of the leaves, and then I'll come back and we'll jar it up and we'll talk about what to do next after that. Alright guys, I'm back. This had about 15 minutes to break down. This kale isn't overly juicy, I've got to say. It's changed to a nice deep green. You see that? It's changed to a really nice deep green, and you can tell that it's wet and stuff. It does have some juice coming out of it. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to jar this up, and how I'm going to jar it is I've got some empty jars here that are sterilized, they're clean. I put them through the dishwasher, and I'm just going to pack the kale mixture into the jar. Now we're going to want this quite tight in here because we're not going to want any air bubbles. We don't want any oxygen in here, so we're going to be able to fit a lot of kale into this jar. I'm just going to press it down as we go and really jam pack it in there nice and tight. I'm hoping I get enough brine from this kale, that there's enough brine comes to the top that I don't have to make a separate brine. We'll just see. If I do, I'll tell you how to do it anyway. If you don't end up getting enough liquid at the end of jarring up your ferment of whatever, it doesn't matter whether it's kale, cabbage, doesn't matter what sort of ferment you're doing. If you don't end up having enough liquid come to the top, you're going to want to make a brine solution yourself, just to pour in there so that your veggies are covered. And to do that, you're going to want to put a litre of water and a tablespoon of your salt is the ratio that you're looking for. So, and that makes a nice brine solution. This is getting a little bit of liquid on it, but I'm thinking I might end up having to do that myself here for this one. Like I said, you want to really jam pack your kale in and make sure that there's no air bubbles. Really push it in and get as much in there as you possibly can. And I'll show you in a minute how much kale I've actually put into this jar. Can you see that? I am getting some liquid in here, but it's not enough for my likings. I'm going to want to put some more liquid on top, I think. You want to leave a little bit of headspace in here for expansion and to try and prevent any of the liquid spilling out when it's fermenting on the bench top. I'm going to just put that one to the side, and I'm just going to do a smaller jar because with all the kale that we had, I only have a really tiny bit left. Most of it fitted into that big jar. So I'm going to jam pack this smaller jar and we'll see how we go. Now this smaller jar, I can't get my hand in the same way that I could on the other one. So I just use a soup spoon, and I use the back side of it, and I just press it all down with that to get all those air bubbles out. As it fills up, I can get my fingers in, but for the first part, that's what I do. A lot of people have kraut pounders and stuff like that. I don't have the space for that sort of stuff, and my soup spoon works really well, so why buy other products when I really don't have to? Alright, that's all the kale in both of those jars. And I'm really not happy with the amount of liquid that's come out of the kale. So I'm going to go ahead and make one of those brine solutions and show you how I do it. Okay, so for my brine solution, I'm not going to need 1 litre of water, so I'm just going to use half a litre. I'm going to make up half a litre here. So I will only use half a tablespoon of salt in my water. And then I'm just going to mix that so that the salt all mixes in. Now that I've done that, I'm just going to top up my jars so that there's the brine solution covers all of my kale. I don't want to fill it up too much because as it's fermenting, I don't want it to overflow. But just in case you do end up with a ferment that is too full, you can just put it on a tray or a bowl or a plate or something like that to catch the excess juices that come out. Now I saved the stalks from the kale, and I'm just going to break them up, and that's what's going to hold my leaves underneath the brine solution. So I'm just going to put that in and just... So the aim of this is just to hold down the leaves underneath the brine solution. So I'm just going to do a crisscross on that, and that should do it since it's packed in really nicely. So I'll let you have a look at that. And now you can see that all the kale is underneath this beautiful brine here, and that's ready to put the lid on and sit on the bench to ferment. Now I would leave my kale to ferment for at least a week, keeping an eye on it. Obviously you're going to want to see how active it is, and you're going to want to see bubbles forming and coming up here, and that's a really good sign that your ferment is nice and active and it is doing the process the way it should. After about a week, take your lid off, have a taste, make sure that there's no mold or anything like that occurring. This one has come up a little bit, so I'll just push it down a bit more, and I'll get some more of this. And I like to use the bigger pieces of this. It'll hold more down. If you can use like cabbage leaves and other leaves and stuff like that to hold it down, but because I'm making a kale kraut and I de-stemmed all of the kale, I just used the thicker bits to just hold it all down underneath the brine. And we're ready to put it on the bench top for about a week, and then to have a look at it and taste it, and if it's at the flavor that you like, put it in the fridge, and once chilled, consume. If you like it a bit tangier or you want it to ferment for longer, leave it on your countertop and try it after however many days, or try it every day if you like. These don't actually have to go in the fridge because they're fermented. They have a shelf life of quite some time. I would like to say infinity. I've actually had some in my fridge, a sauerkraut in my fridge for over 12 months because I had so much of it. And actually there was one jar that got forgotten about at the back of the fridge, and it was in there for over 12 months and it was still perfect, and the flavor was just absolutely delicious. So you don't have to put these in the fridge after a week. You can just leave them on your bench top or in the cupboard, and just keep an eye on them, and once you open them, definitely put them in the fridge so they can chill, and that holds back any bacteria that's going to come in once you've opened the lid and started consuming, because then you're adding, you're opening the lid constantly, so you're allowing molds and all that sort of stuff to come on in. But apart from that, I'd just like to say thank you so much for watching and taking in my kale kraut recipe. And remember, you can use whatever flavors you like, or you can not flavor it at all and have it plain. If you really like the flavor of just straight kale, just eat it straight. You don't have to put in other flavors. But fermentation is a really good way of preserving your harvest and also adding in extra vitamins and minerals into your diet, which your body so desperately needs. So big hugs, guys, and see you next time. Thank you.